Check hook. When someone charges at you, the check hook is the answer. Step off line, let them come forward, hook them on the way through. It's the first boxing technique we're covering. Terrence Crawford did it to Errol Spence Jr. repeatedly in July 2023. Spence kept trying to walk him down, and every time he committed forward, Crawford was already gone, hook waiting on the way past. The hook was a big part of how Crawford broke him down. 3 knockdowns by round 7, fight stopped in the 9th. Ricky Hatton got the textbook version from Mayweather in December 2007. He charged in head first from the opening bell. Round 10, Mayweather pivoted off along the ropes. Hatton lunged past, and the hook caught him clean on the temple. He went face first into the corner post and didn't get up in time. Gervonta Davis also uses the check hook. Tank is known for power, so opponents come in watching for his big left hand with their guard up. Against Leo Santa Cruz in October 2020, he spent 5 rounds baiting Santa Cruz forward and stepping off to the side. Round 6, Santa Cruz pressed in once more and walked straight into a left uppercut that put him out cold against the ropes. Feinting. A feint is a fake punch designed to make the opponent react. It looks like a punch is starting, but it isn't. Every flinch costs them stamina, balance, or position, and good feinters build entire rounds on those reactions before throwing anything real. Alexander Usyk takes it further than most. He steps slightly to his right as he punches, so his head is already drifting off the center line before the shot lands. Fury kept trying to time the counter and kept missing because Usyk wasn't where Fury was aiming. Usyk won by unanimous decision, and Fury said afterward he couldn't read the timing. Fury also uses feint them differently. Head bobs, shoulder dips, half-thrown jabs that stop halfway. Against Vladimir Klitschko in November 2015, he spent 12 rounds making Klitschko hesitate to throw the right hand he'd built his whole career on. Klitschko landed fewer than 90 punches across the whole fight. Fury won by unanimous decision and took every heavyweight belt off him without ever needing to trade. Naoya Inoue feints high to land low and feints low to land high. Against Stephen Fulton in July 2023, he spent the early rounds selling feints to the head to make Fulton bring his hands up, then digging hooks to the body underneath. By round 8, Fulton's reactions were locked in, and Inoue landed a clean right hand to the head off a body feint that dropped him. The fight was stopped in the same round, and Inoue took Fulton's super bantamweight belts. Body shot setup. Attack the body until they drop their guard, then go upstairs. The fighter throwing is training a reflex in his opponent. Every time the hook comes downstairs, the elbows drop a little more. By the middle rounds, that response is automatic, and the head is wide open. Canelo Alvarez is one of the best body punchers in the sport. Against Caleb Plant in November 2021, he spent the first 5 rounds digging hooks to the ribs and liver. Plant's guard came down rep after rep until round 11, when Canelo broke through with a left hook to the chin, followed by a right uppercut that dropped Plant for the first time in his career. He finished him with a follow-up flurry. Plant was the undefeated IBF super middleweight champion. He didn't make it out of the round. Gervonta Davis flipped it on Ryan Garcia in April 2023. He dropped Garcia in round 2 with a counter left hook to the head, which made Garcia hesitant to throw his right hand without protecting his face. Davis spent the next 4 rounds watching Garcia's elbow lift every time he threw the right, leaving the liver exposed. Round 7, Davis ducked under a right hand and ripped a short left to the body underneath the rising elbow. Garcia didn't react right away, then dropped to one knee and stayed down for the count. Pull counter. The pull counter is a trap. Drop your guard slightly to bait the punch. Pull back just enough to make it miss, and fire back while the opponent's arm is still extended. Roy Jones Jr. was running it back in the 90s with both hands down. Against James Toney in November 1994, he dropped his hands to his waist, leaned back from every shot Toney threw, and countered off the rebound. Toney was the undefeated IBF super middleweight champion and one of the best counterpunchers in the sport. Jones won by unanimous decision and made Toney look slow. Andre Ward worked the pull counter on Sergey Kovalev in their first fight in November 2016. Kovalev dropped Ward with a right hand in round 2 and looked on his way to a knockout win. Ward adjusted in the middle rounds, started baiting the right hand and pulling back from it, and countered to the head and body off the same motion. He took the fight back round by round and won by unanimous decision to take Kovalev's 3 light heavyweight titles. The pull counter was one of Floyd Mayweather's main tools. Against Canelo Alvarez in September 2013, Canelo was 23 years old, undefeated, and significantly bigger. He couldn't land anything clean for 12 rounds. rounds. Every time he committed to the right hand, Mayweather pulled back 2 inches and came over the top with his own. Canelo threw 526 punches and landed 117. Mayweather won by majority decision, and Canelo said afterward he couldn't figure out the timing. Elbow block. Instead of catching a punch on the glove, you take it on the forearm and elbow. Bigger surface, harder to miss, and your hand stays free to counter off the same motion. Floyd Mayweather did it better than anyone. Against Robert Guerrero in May 2013, Guerrero spent 12 rounds trying to land the left hand to Mayweather's body. Every time he threw it, Mayweather caught it on the point of the elbow and came back with a straight right to the face. Guerrero landed 19% of his power shots over the whole fight, and Mayweather took every round on every scorecard. Andre Ward used it constantly against pressure. Against Carl Froch in December 2011, Froch came forward looking to dig hooks to the body in the Super 6 final. Ward caught those hooks on the elbow rep after rep, then turned them into right hands over the top. He won by unanimous decision and was named Super 6 champion at 168 pounds. Joe Calzaghe used the same block when older veterans tried to walk him down late in his career. Against Bernard Hopkins in April 2008, Hopkins came in looking to bang the body and rough him up inside. Calzaghe absorbed those shots on the elbows and forearms and fired back with combinations off the same arm position. He won by split decision and finished his career undefeated at 46-0. Shoulder roll. The shoulder roll turns your front shoulder into a moving wall. Punches land on it and slide off, redirecting the energy while your rear hand stays loaded for the counter. The opponent thinks they got through, and the return shot lands before they reset. The shoulder roll is core to Shakur Stevenson's style. Against Edwin De Los Santos in November 2023, De Los Santos spent 12 rounds throwing power shots that all hit the shoulder or slid past Stevenson's face. He landed 65 punches in the entire fight, the lowest output ever recorded by Stevenson's opponents in CompuBox history at the time. Stevenson won by unanimous decision and took the vacant WBC lightweight title. Terrence Crawford uses it as a setup. Against Sean Porter in November 2021, Porter tried to bull his way inside and throw hooks the entire fight. Crawford rolled the shoulder against the hook, slipped his head off the center line, and came over the top with the right hand. The shot dropped Porter in round 10, and his father stopped the fight from the corner. Foot pin. Step on their foot mid-exchange and they can't pivot, can't step back, can't reset. You've turned them into a stationary target for half a second, which is all you need to land a clean shot. Roberto Duran used it as part of his inside game. Against Sugar Ray Leonard in their first fight in June 1980, Duran pinned Leonard's lead foot in close exchanges along the ropes, keeping Leonard stuck while he worked the body for 15 rounds. Duran won by unanimous decision and took the WBC welterweight title. Juan Manuel Marquez stepped on Manny Pacquiao's lead foot 6 times in their third fight in November 2011. Pacquiao won a controversial majority decision, but Freddie Roach said afterward the foot collisions had taken away Pacquiao's exit angles. A year later, in the fourth fight, the roles flipped. Marquez landed the famous overhand right in round 6 that knocked Pacquiao out cold. An aerial replay showed Pacquiao's lead foot tangled with Marquez's at the exact moment the punch landed. Roach said Pacquiao stepping on Marquez's foot had set up the knockout that almost ended his career. Reckless punches. Most fighters keep their rear hand up when they throw the hook. Some drop it on purpose for the extra power and speed. Ryan Garcia is the modern example. He drops his rear hand low and loads the left hook from his waist, which gives him a wider shoulder rotation and serious power. Against Luke Campbell in January 2021, he dropped the hook and ate a clean left hand that put him on the canvas in round 2. He got up, kept throwing the same way, and stopped Campbell in round 7 with a left hook to the liver that came from the exact loading position he'd been getting countered on. Arturo Gatti fought his entire career like this. Against Mickey Ward in May 2002, the first fight of their trilogy, he threw bombs from start to finish and left openings every round. Ward landed counters constantly through 10 rounds and won a majority decision. Gatti kept fighting the same way in the rematch 6 months later, dropped Ward twice, and won by unanimous decision. He never adjusted because the style was the whole identity. Pawing jab. A jab thrown without commitment isn't there to hurt you. It's there to block your vision, disrupt your rhythm, and set up the punch behind it. The hand stays out for an extra beat, sitting on your guard or in front of your eyes, while the fighter throwing it watches what you do. Alexander Usyk uses it to probe and trap. Against Anthony Joshua in their rematch in August 2022, he spent the first 6 rounds sticking the jab out and leaving it there, watching Joshua's reactions. By the middle rounds, every Usyk jab was either pinning Joshua's lead hand down down or blocking his sight line before a left hand came over the top. Usyk won by split decision and kept all 4 heavyweight belts. Shakur Stevenson does it too. Against Joet Gonzalez in October 2019, he pinned Gonzalez's lead hand with the jab over and over, then landed clean shots into the opening. Stevenson won by unanimous decision and took the vacant WBO featherweight title. Vladimir Klitschko built his whole career around it. Against David Haye in July 2011, he stuck the jab in Haye's face for 12 rounds without ever fully committing to it. Haye spent the fight trying to slip a jab that wasn't really being thrown to hurt him, which kept him from setting his feet for the right hand he'd promised before the fight. Klitschko won by unanimous decision. Forearm smash. A forearm dragged across the nose and eyes in the clinch isn't technically a punch. It's a way to inflict pain, blur vision, and make the opponent miserable inside without getting warned by the referee. Roberto Duran made it part of his style. Against Iran Barkley in February 1989, Duran was the smaller man moving up to middleweight and was supposed to be outsized. Every time they clinched, he ground the forearm across Barkley's face, broke his rhythm, and went back to short hooks underneath. Duran won by split decision and took the WBC middleweight title at 37 years old. Canelo Alvarez does the same thing today. Against Daniel Jacobs in May 2019, Jacobs tried to use his size and length to bully Canelo on the inside. Every time they got close, Canelo dragged his forearm across Jacobs' face before turning out and resetting. Jacobs spent 12 rounds frustrated and unable to land cleanly inside. Canelo won by unanimous decision and unified 3 middleweight titles. Aggressive clinch. The clinch is supposed to be a reset. Some fighters use it to wear opponents down. They tie up their opponent mid-combination, drain their energy, and break up rhythm round after round. Referees are always a second too slow to break it, and that second is the whole point. Tyson Fury smothers opponents with his size in the clinch. Against Francis Ngannou in October 2023, Fury leaned his full weight on him against the ropes every time they got close and worked short shots underneath. The clinch work let Fury survive the early rounds after Ngannou dropped him in round 3, and Fury won a controversial split decision. David Benavidez uses it to break opponents down on the ropes. Against David Lemieux in May 2022, Benavidez walked Lemieux down, pinned him against the ropes, and unloaded short hooks before the referee stepped in. The pattern repeated all night until the corner stopped the fight after round 3. Benavidez retained the WBC interim super middleweight title. Forehead jab. A jab pressed into the opponent's forehead doesn't hurt. It tilts their head back and briefly disrupts their vision and balance for the next exchange. The referee sees a jab. The opponent feels their whole head being moved around. Canelo Alvarez does it constantly in his inside game. Against Gennady Golovkin in their 3rd fight in September 2022, Canelo pressed the jab into Golovkin's forehead in tight exchanges, breaking his rhythm and forcing his head back before throwing the right hand underneath. Canelo won by unanimous decision and retained the undisputed super middleweight titles. Lennox Lewis used it on heavyweights who tried to crowd him. Against Franz Botha in July 2000, Botha came forward looking to maul on the inside. Lewis pressed the jab into his forehead every time he got close, kept him standing straight up, and stopped him in round 2 with a right hand once Botha couldn't get back to his guard in time.